the construction of a landscape of afro-alimentary memories. A big greeting to all the people who are connected. We, Ana Felicien, and I, Meyby Ugueto-Ponce, coordinators of the Sabores de la Memoria Afro project, would like to thank you for the invitation to participate in this important event. It's a great opportunity to connect our struggles against the new form of colonialism. We, as Afro-Venezuelans, have many expectations about future alliance to unite our worlds as daughters of Africa that we are. Understanding how race, class, role in the organization of and the project is key to food justice, which seeks to eliminate disparities and inequalities of the current food system. The globalized food regime has its roots in the expansion of monoculture to supply the world food markets, with various socio-ecological impacts, including climate change and loss of biodiversity. The expansion of the regime did not improve food security. In 2016, the number of chronically hungry people increased from 707 million to 815 million, and overweight people worldwide more than doubled between 1918 and 2040. In the context of COVID-19, the situation worsened, particularly affecting marginalized and racialized populations, such as Black, Indigenous people, and people of color. This reveals that racism is an endemic feature of the global food system, and therefore food must be situated in power relations and disputed identities. Hunger is a strategy of the necropolitics and has been used by racism and as device of war and annihilation. At the same time, it had led to emerging of process of ethnic racial reaffirmation around food, confronting racism and endo-racism from divides such as social memory. Social memory is the dynamic, collaborative, and creative retrospective reconstruction of the past. It allows the construction of collective meaning from milestone, funded event, institution, commemorative space, etc. With the Reshare project, within the Reshare project, Sabores de la Memoria Afro, we are interested in understanding the collective meaning recreated in everyday life in relation to funding events, such as the transatlantic trade and the racialization of the food system, and the times we are considering linking the African diaspora with the mother continent through reference to a specific cultural system, such as food, using social memory as mechanisms. In this presentation, we say observe two objectives. First, to describe Afro-Memory Flavor projects, which emerged in 2020. Second, to open a debate to jointly build forms of articulation with different African countries based on a specific food experience. What do we intend with the transatlantic articulation? We want to build narrative and not hegemonic subjective reference of food from food alliance. In Latin America, the dominant elite continue to be the heirs to the culture of the white settlers, and they operate from ideology of whitening in all spheres of society, including food. We believe that this is no different in Africa. Indigenous and Afro-descendant movements have challenged the wide bias of the mestizaje ideology, which operates as a homogenizing force in society. We are interested in examining the debates on white supremacy and food racism in the dialogue with African countries, since we are plagued by similar problems: extensive use of monocultures, exploitation of resources, maintenance of the colonial model in the production of some items such as cocoa, problems in access to land, seed, water, access to market, etc. We believe that these dialogues would bring a powerful perspective to studies of food sovereignty and food justice in transatlantic relations. We have seen that the alliance between the progress and radical food movement between the North and the South in favor of food justice and food sovereignty has made the food movement stronger and have overcome the rural-urban divisions, North-South. We suggest fostering Afro-diaspora alliance with African countries. That is why we are interested in establishing communication with initiatives similar to ours in African countries, where social networks can serve for the construction of hegemonic narrative of food. We ask observers, how can social media contribute to the production of transatlantic food narrative between African and East diaspora? What mechanisms could be implemented to propose a dialogue between Sabores de la Memoria Afro and initiatives in different African countries that seek to generate process of awareness and appreciation of traditional food memory? To meet these two objectives, we will describe the dissemination implementation of our project through the social network, Instagram and WhatsApp. And we will put on the table 3 possible ideas to be discussed as future patronage between Africa and its diaspora. These 3 purposes are the construction of transatlantic digital action network on food. 2, the construction of a transatlantic anti-racism receipt book. And 3, a digital exhibition on social network called a category, a technique, a utensil, and dish, common food imaginaries between African and East diaspora. What is the flavor of Afro Memory Project about? The general objective of project is to understand structural racism beyond folkloric discourse of food, economic-centered vision of access to food, and approach focused on mestizo peasant identities in America Latina y el Caribe. The project explores the narrative, imaginaries, and subjectivities that Afro-Venezuelan and the African diaspora has about the food system through social memory. We seek to shed light on how racism and food have remained linked over time, starting from the premise that the global food system is hierarchized by race. We asked the following question: what are the meanings of food systems that are produced, recovered, and transformed through social memory in the current context of increasing media coverage of racial violence across the continent? To its end, we like virtuality and ethnography given the pandemic context in which we live. It began on May 10, 2020, the Afro-Venezuelan Day, until December 2020. We position observers from our own experience of Afro-Venezuelan women, research in anthropology and agroecology, and food activists. We use two digital platforms, the social network WhatsApp to collect the content, receipts, testimonials, and photos, and the social network Instagram to publish the context. The call for collaboration was aimed at self-identification as Afro-descendants based on the general request of 1. A photo of an Afro-food dish or crop. 2. A self-portrait of each collaborator. 3. A short text that combines the recipe with the detail of its preparation and medicinal property, if any. And 4, a writing testimony about the relationship between the recipe and the Afro-descendant identity of the author. A total of 41 people participated, mostly women, 32, and 2 groups. We received 46 contributions from Venezuela and the other countries in Africa, Ghana, Tunisia, and Uganda, Europe, France, Latin America, Brazil, Colombia, and the Caribbean, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Guadeloupe, Haiti, Saint Martin, Trinidad, and Tobago. We analyze the content of each publication to identify the main elements that show the intersection between race and food according to the representation of the past and the present of each participant in relation to the particular story about the African diaspora. What did we find? Eating diversity, the rural-urban diasporic connection through the Afro food ways. For mass recipes, the vegetable ingredients are mainly through traditional crops that are related to the cultivation of the conuco in Venezuela. These groups were created with food sets, bananas, beans, mince, pepper, spice, tuber, and root. In addition, there were 3 food individually: brown sugar, coconut, and cocoa, due to their relevance given by the number of recipes that use them and their relationship with traditional Afro-diasporic gastronomy. In the case of meat, we find the use of organ meats and feed, food highly valued among Afro communities, but not by the average Venezuelan consumer. Coconut is consumed in its various forms: meal, oil, flakes, and grate. There were medicinal drinks with star anise, aloe vera, and vegetables. Cocoa was used in some recipes only from Venezuela, although it was a fundamental crop for colonial plantation, and historically it has been managed by Afro communities. It is currently recovering its importance as export commodity. Its use is surrounded by conflict, contradiction, and tensions in which cocoa has served as a means of liberation, but also of subjugation and ultimatum as a commodity and not as food. The group of tubers and roots is also an important group of crops for the conuco, in which the use all include the use of level and various forms of cooking. In general, sweet preparation account for several recipes, 1946, and the most widely used sweetener is panela or panela. Although rice was not reported in all recipes, it was used in many preparations: dessert, sweet and fermented drink, and also as garnish in meat-based dish. Musaceae are an import group, and the receipts include several varieties of bananas, locally called Titi, Guineo, and Rocco. These are used in a variety of ways, are processed in very creative ways. Its role as a staple crop for Afro-diasporic community is widely recognized. The content availability of some food groups, such as banana and squash described in the testimonies, facilitated the creation and provision of, excuse me, excuse me. Such bananas and squash described in the testimonies facilitated the creation and provision of multiple and diverse cultural specific food options. Carne provides a group of African plants present in historical record American tropical plantation societies that include some of the food group reported in receipts. For example, beans, bananas, taro, and jams. She points out the relevance of these nutritional legalities for the enslaved agency in sustaining the cultivation and family diet. This legacy resonates in the present, and these foods are evoked and used in African food recipes in a way that with current eating practice with memory and identity. Recreating in Legally Carne points out the diversity of tropical food crops featured in the ingredients used in recipes highlight time, the interconnections between rural and urban communities, and the important convergence between Afro-diaspora food pathways. In light of what Pieroni and all call a strategy for dynamic conservation, this first approach could help frame a food-justing food sovereignty dialogue, recognizing and including cultural differentiation and appropriate management practice to link rural-urban food movements. This led us to think that food practice, instead of being monotonous and uniform, are constantly reinvented and diversified in the real or everyday life, given the safe availability of food groups that allow this creative diversification of food processing. From this, we can propose to the Afro-diaspora communities the following principles: the availability and the most stable access to food, the great creativity in food preparation. For the debate of food sovereignty, the element of cultural appropriation could be promoted from this principle, which is that to the narrative about the care practice carried out by women, from which an intergenerational transfer of knowledge takes place and promotes this adaptability, diversity, creativity nexus, creating with the same ingredients a family of preparation and recipes. Territories of Afro-food memories. From the Afro-food memory relationship evolved in the narrative, there was also a spatial relationship, a connection between the territory from where the contributions were made and the place named in the receipts. That is, a relation between evocative localities and evocated localities. This allowed us to draw a landscape of afro-alimentary memories that emerged at different scales: local, those towns, villas, regional, Eastern Venezuela, Caribbean Barlovento, national, Guadalupe, Venezuela, Cuba, and continental Africa. We found the Caribbean region is a significant place with another characteristic, both a place of evocation as a place evocated. Africa has a homogeneous and nominal presence, but neither isolated nor immobile, as a reference for the origin of food and process. It is recognized how this knowledge spread and changed in the America. The monolithic and blurred image of Africa is strongly linked to regions recognized as Afro-descendants. For example, it is likely that the way of preparing chen in the Dominican Republic has remained a legacy of African women on the island, either directly or that come to us through Haitian influence. Yesenia Mesa, El Chenchen, República Dominicana. Memory and agency from Afro-diaspora food heritage. We found 5 references around Afro-descendant identity and food. The colonial reference, the rural-urban relationship, frequency of use, matricentrality, and mestizaje. From Africa Day to the construction of a landscape of Afro-food memories. In the call for the exhibition, we set aside a space to celebrate Africa Day, 1 May 25, after remembering the creation of what was called in 1963 the Organization of African United, known as the African Union. Two receipts were part of the publication, one from Ghana and the other from Uganda. We learned about the Eto dish, a Ghanaian food that is known as soul food, because it is prepared on very special occasions. In this dish, yam is the main ingredient. For Afro-Venezuelan case, this eating acquired vital importance in the case of the food crisis the country is going through. The form of production and preparation on this eating, almost forgotten in some Afro communities, were resumed during the years 2015-2016, given the difficulty of access to manufactured products. On the other hand, we have the Ugandan veal stew. This shows us the importance of the creativity of the new generation in the recreation of the tradition, which does not leave the past immobile, but constantly revives in the present through food. The diversity and versatility in cooking techniques we understand as adaptive action of the new generation, which will arise as particular form of knowledge transmission through women, as happening in the Ugandan cuisine of our example. Or as knowledge capable of facting the exclusionary and unequal consequence of the globalized food model, has happening in the Venezuelan case with the recovery of yams. This giving us the opportunity to put on the table 3 proposals that can be for the construction of a landscape Afro-food memories. In our research, we highlight that Africa has a homogeneous and nominal presence as a reference for the origin of the food and process of many of the participants of the exhibition. Therefore, it would be very nourishing to interact with African countries to dismantle the stereotypes that exist about Africa. Food and the memories it evokes are conducive to this. To nurture food imaginaries between the two sides of the Atlantic from the construction of an exchange link with African countries for the sharing of subjective identity and experiential process about food. We want to nurture imaginaries that challenge the whitening logic of the neocolonial project, which advance with the strengthening of the globalized food system. Sabores de la Memoria Afro wants to influence the imaginary of the direct consumer in the process of the decolonization installed in the parts of production, distribution, and especially food consumption. We are interested in consumer-consumer communication in differential national, international, and transatlantic contexts as the basis for the creation of alternative ways to address process of inequality in food based on hierarchy on race, class, and gender. That is why we leave the three ideas on the table to discuss their feasibility and implementation. Propose the construction of Transatlantic Digital Action Network of Food. We think of it as articulation between individuals, enterprise, research projects, initiatives, collective, communities, etc., to exchange experience of food action in order to nurture diverse and no-hegemonic imaginaries on racialized food. 2. Construction of a transatlantic anti-racist research book. To make conscious that the production, distribution, preparation, and consumption of traditional food are in themselves a narrative action of no hegemonic form of nutrition and food. To show this is a racist book is to make an everyday fact an anti-racist and insurgent narrative. 3. Digital exhibition in social network called an item and technique and utensils and dish, common food imaginaries between Africa and its diaspora. It consists of replicating the initial project Sabores de la Memoria Afro, with a joint exhibition between Africa and its diaspora with a similar eating technique, utensil, and dish on both sides of the Atlantic. Conclusion. The current context of multiple crises and increasing violence represents a crossover where it is posed central debate about life and the intersection between race and food beyond the survival sentence. Dialogue between Africa communities and their diaspora, scholars, and the social movement is essential. 2. The struggle for Black liberation needs to be guided by the notion of diaspora that constitutes ourselves in order to foster that dialogue and to create comparative and relational frameworks for linking Black liberation struggle. We must promote and build bridges not only to the unity of the diaspora horizonte, but to Africa, with the fundamental understanding of the centering hegemonic narrative about food from the food perspective. 3. In Venezuela, this dialogue has the challenge of reposition race as a subjugation and analytical category will reveal the impact of structural racism on the Latin America. 4. The position of the third Afro-descendant as a category of political identity from which self-recognition and law-marking process seek to break with the biologists, colorists, and whiteners perspective rooted of the category of race in Venezuela. We propose reposition the place race as social historical construction and the style how the impact of racist structural inequalities result in the embodiment of racialized process, we have affected and the threatened the well-being of Afro-diasporic community. 5. The North-South dialogue to understand the racialization of food has all occurred by discussing anti-racism and miscegenation. It is a good time to move forward now in a South dialogue. Our proposal is to understand how the racialization of food operates in other contexts and thus advance common strategies to overcome it. Finally, food is a critical place from which it is possible to unveil how white supremacy functions in our Latin American context, and understanding the narratives about the food system evolved from the social memory and the production, recovery, and transformation of meaning related with the privilege dispossession dialectics could provide critical insight for mobilization as transatlantic agenda toward transformative action for food justice and food sovereignty. Thank you.